Hello there everyone, welcome back to Alpha Tauri. Last time around we had a pretty dominant start to the season here. 1-2 both races, pretty dominant performance all around, and honestly probably we're going to have to do some driver changes here to kind of spice things up here. Otherwise this season is basically just going to be a sim and forget to some degree. One of the suggestions that I did receive for that matter is that we just promote Lawson. We might just end up letting go of Rick here fairly early. Can actually renew his contract right now if we wanted to. So that might be what we do here, that we actually do go ahead and get rid of Rick, or rather let him go. Which honestly I think is fine. The kind of rule that I wanted to add to this series to this point is basically just a very simple one, more of a house rule. That once a driver wins the championship, we let them go. So I think that's what we're going to do with Rick here. We're going to let him go, promote Lawson, and in Lawson's place we're going to get probably Contreras. She seems to be a better option than Flörsch right now. But with that in mind, we're probably going to let go of Sonoda next year and promote Contreras, and then probably get Flörsch in as a reserve. And basically just rotate those drivers around. Now, we're also getting really close to the release of the team switching update as well. So we'll have to see exactly what we do. But I think we will try and condense this season somewhat. And what I mean by this is actually fairly simple. Unless we have something very interesting happening during the races, most of it is just going to be me showing us running away at the start, pit stops, and generally just, there's going to be less interesting things that involve us during the race weekends. So less of it will be shown, basically, cutting out some of the unnecessary fluff, if you will. Car passed the tests here, which is not surprising. We haven't had any incidents so far this season. And the future race results here, Nabla, Crawford, and Edgar. But yeah, I'm just going to have a look here and see what kind of contract we're looking at in terms of promoting Lawson, because he's actually, available right now. And it would have to be car 1. Just double checking here that I don't, yeet out Sonoda by accident. So we'll be promoting him to car 1. We'll give him a 3-season contract, I think. Start immediately. And as you can see, the cost of breaking the contract is going to be pretty huge here, because we are breaking not only his contract, but also of course Rick's contract. So that's going to make things a tad more expensive. So it's going to be 13 million down the drain. Honestly, it's probably a bit rough from that perspective. But I think we'll also try and give him a... Actually, we can see... This is interesting. I assume this is his starting position, maybe? But yeah, I think we're going to try and give him this one. 3 seasons should be okay, honestly. Give him an extra season if need be. We're going to be wasting a ton of money, but again, that isn't actually a concern. We have a decent amount of money. Our facilities not getting one upgrade isn't going to be the end of the world. It is a waste, of course, but honestly, when I started the Alpha Tauri save, I thought it would be a lot harder for us to become dominant, but we have already achieved that, so we are going to let Rick go to keep things a bit interesting. It's going to be a bit of a financial burden, of course, but I think it is the right thing to keep things a little bit more interesting this season. And as you can see, we already have him accepting everything. Apparently the bump in pay here wasn't really necessary, but we'll take that. And we're going to go ahead and renew here. It's going to cost a bit of money. Apparently a bit less than we expected. So not 13 million, just 7, but still. We will go ahead and do that. There we go. So unfortunately, that is Rick out. He won the championship. Kind of rude from that perspective. But again, I think we just kind of need to do things like this, where we actually do take a bit of a limit to ourselves in terms of our drivers, at the very least. Now, as I said, I think it's easy to just go through the standings here. I think the driver that we're going to be picking up as a reserve now, and probably promote next season, are going to be Contreras here. So in theory, having her running through the championship will probably get her more points. We'll be able to direct those points a bit better if we take control. We don't actually know her stat distribution yet, so it might actually be really bad. But we could also just go with We could be extremely cheeky here. And that is to give her a next season contract for Tsunoda's seat. And then pick a flush. Because that basically puts a little bit of pressure on us. But I think we'll put her in the reserve seat. We'll give her a 2-season contract. We'll give her, I think, 200,000. I think that's fine. And we'll just give her an immediate contract. Because if we give her a next season contract, it's still going to take a while. And I think just promoting her here... Excuse me. I guess just promoting her here is going to be better for development. So let's go ahead. See what the opinions are here. Might be that we're paying too low. We are. Season wasn't actually a problem. So let's see. How do you feel about 500,000 being a reserve with a 58 overall? Considering that that was good enough apparently. And we will go ahead and hire reserve 2 seasons immediately. And boom. Kind of nabbing the title away though, but that's fine. And I don't know why we paid 180,000. I guess that's for breaking the contract. But holy stack distribution. What is this? No smoothness to speak of. No braking. You have 70 overtaking, 78 defending. Okay, I guess why you're leading the F3 championship then. But still, we need to definitely work on braking and we need to work on smoothness. What here gives us both of those? This gives smoothness, cornering. This gives braking. At this point, we kind of need both. And there's no right clear place to get that. Honestly, I think we need to just do this, pace short runs, and just sacrifice a bit of smoothness. As bad as that sounds. Development rate is average as well. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one in terms of developing forwards. I did not expect 43 braking here. The smoothness and the braking drags down the average a lot, but let's face it, she's almost 60 to 70 average in the other stats, if you exclude those. Accuracy a bit low, control's a bit low, but 78 defending, 73 reactions. This is a very, very interesting driver to actually develop from that perspective too. She has clearly defined strengths and clearly defined weaknesses. Apparently the braking here is going to be pretty bad too, because while running wide, causing racing incidents, we need to get this up. Like, the smoothness is something we can work on a little bit later. But this could potentially also, as I said, give us a bit of a challenge in terms of getting ourselves a, championship winner. A different concern that we also had, I think that actually solves our driver issues. Does that actually have an effect on our standings? Nope. Rick is still second. He just has a white flag waved. We'll see if someone actually ends up picking him up or not. But yeah. Welcome in, Gabriella. Leon Lawson's contract has been renewed. Honestly, I feel like things like this is something that the board should be a little bit more pissy with you about. Like letting go of a championship winner who is highly rated like this. I think the board should send you, like, we don't agree with your move, but we'll see how it actually, works out for the team. Because I know that in Football Manager, if you let go of your superstar or something like that, the board will take notice. And I feel like that is something they should do in this game too. When you basically have 3 staff members or 3 drivers that have such a huge impact on your team. But yeah, we'll see what we can do with Gabriella here. He comes from nowhere, apparently. So it's going to be an interesting development there to see if we can get the braking and cornering stat up this season to a livable level, if you will. Now we have designed the underfloor. I believe this is the last piece we're missing. And we're going to go ahead and make 4 of those because, well, there's no reason not to. We'll get 1 ready for Melbourne, which we're probably going to just give to Tsunoda. Although, to be honest, Lawson is probably going to need that a bit more. And I think what we can do here is just make another sideboard here. Generally, that should still be a decent choice. Outside of that, I would say rear wing. But we are going to get hit with a pretty massive regulation change this year. So we're just going to do a normal sideboard development here. We're not going to be using the piece. It's basically just to gain a bit of expertise. That is perfectly okay by me. Murphy levels up here. Contreras. I thought she was 58 when we signed her, but okay. Is this chassis better than the one that we have now? Yes, as you can see, it's marginally better. So we might change over from this one to this one as we get damage. So honestly, we could just make 4 of them as we are. But But I think we are going to make another design there for the chassis, because again, it's one of the things that we are lacking the most right now, and it's going to, you know, help in the future. That is the idea. So we're going to go ahead and just make one like this, like we usually do. Still going to improve the engine cooling compared to the current one, and the engine cooling is already pretty high, so we'll just go ahead and make one of these like so. And again, we're just going to keep on designing until we hit that research bump, which is going to be when exactly? Somewhere in April. The 14th of April here, so we have these two projects ending a couple of days after. That's fine. But say once this front wing project is done, once this suspension project is done, we might just decide to keep those slots open. Because again, we are expecting a huge regulation change here, so we want to do as much research as we can. Although, to be fair, the AI will usually just use 2 slots. So this is going to make our car massively overpowered going into next season. But I just want to have a look here in the speedrun to see just how massively overpowered it's going to be. So we'll have a look at that. ATR period 2 ends, which means that we're not going to be using ATR for the designs. We're going to save that for the research. And, well, we are going to get straight to the next one. Jared Murphy has low morale. Well, that is because, well, he pulled us into a contract that he himself didn't want, apparently. So we'll just have to deal with that. We are ready for the next race here in Canada. And as I said, we have some research here that is finishing the suspension. And we're just going to leave the slot for the suspension and the front wing, for that matter, open to make our life a little bit easier in the long run. Performance targets here, we should be able to get fastest lap. Should be able to qualify both drivers in, say, top 5 maybe. Should be fine. We're going to be a little bit careful with Lawson. We're going to learn how well he actually, you know, performs before we make any extraordinary promises. But he is really, really well-rounded, with the massive exception of the overtaking and defending and the smoothness. So you might want to potentially switch his focus over to wheel-to-wheel. Get braking up, get control up, get the overtaking and defending up a little bit here. Because honestly, this seems to be the best thing to do if you are expecting your driver to, you know, completely wreck the car on a regular basis. So we'll switch him over to wheel for now. I guess when we actually promoted him, it reset, is what I assume. And the other thing that we might want to do here is sweat track later on. But we do need smoothness. Could put him on race strategy, honestly. It might be better here. Doesn't give him better control, but it will fix the smoothness issue, overtaking, defending, reactions. We'll put him on race strategy for now. But we might put him on wheel-to-wheel later on if, say, braking and control doesn't develop. Because, again, I value smoothness highly on this year's edition. Because aggressive strategies are just your best bet for getting, well, good results. So with that said, we are actually finally done with all the, you know, the switching. Lawson in, Rick out. It is a bit of a tragedy from Rick's perspective, but honestly, he did win the championship. And I feel like we can probably get Tsunoda championship, then get maybe Lawson championship, and then we'll see if we can get Contreras and maybe Fleury also a couple of championships, and that might round out this series. We might see if we maybe do something with team switching, but for now, we're going to power through the Australian Grand Prix and see how Lawson actually performs. Okay, quali here went extremely well. As you can see, we qualified 1-2. Lawson is about half a second behind Tsunoda, but this was wet quali. He got sent out second. He had the last part of his run, more obstructed by the weather than Tsunoda did. But we have a surprise here from Norris, putting the McLaren in third, then Leclerc, Verstappen down in 8th, Show, Albon. An interesting weekend here just from that alone, as you can see. Alpine out in last place, again, very bad qualifying. Of course, Schumacher actually making it to Q2, so Magnussen out pretty in Q2 as well. Okamate does a little bit better. But yeah, generally a very, very weirdly mixed grid is the best way I can describe the current situation. So with that in mind, the race itself is just going to be partly cloudy, but do have some good news. I did put Contreras in for practice. She actually did 8th best. So that is promising from that perspective as well. The car is good. She did well in practice. Setups are pretty good here. We have given Tsunoda the, as you can see from the car part knowledge, we've given him the new underfloor. So he does also have a bit of an advantage over Lawson. But again, Tsunoda has less track acclimatization because we gave Contreras his car. So that is just how we're going to do that. In terms of tire performance here, the soft to medium is about 3/10. And with degradation just being 200s, means the softs will be better for 15, 16 laps here. Basically, a pretty good choice in Australia. And the medium to hard, 200s again. But there's a bit of a bigger difference there in terms of the, lap times. A little bit over 4/10s. So it'll be about 20 laps there. So we probably want to try and do a soft, medium, soft if we can. Although, again, if doing a medium, hard, medium might be a better choice here. Purely due to the fact that we can run attack. So we'll have a look here and see what we can do in terms of setting up strategy. Although degradation isn't high here to begin with. So potentially doing a one-stopper like this could be doable. I forgot to check exactly how long the pit stops are here. 21 seconds in terms of the usual loss. So honestly, could probably make something like this work. Let's have a look and see if it is viable. And it does not look fully viable. But it definitely does look potentially viable, something like this. And as you can see there, it's about 15 seconds quicker than the strategy that we just set up. And a whole half a minute quicker than anything that the AI is currently cooking up. Now, what we could do here is actually start with that aggressive stint on the mediums. And that is probably the best option that we have for both drivers in this regard. Starting on the mediums, do it aggressively. And the reason why we want to do it like this is incredibly simple. By starting on the mediums, we'll be able to basically go longer, probably create bigger gaps to cars behind, and have a bit of an easier time once we get out of the pit stop. We do, however, want to, put them on separate strategies. So what we are going to do here, I think, is going to be put Lawson on the more aggressive one. He's going to have to do some overtakes as a result. But I do want our drivers now on different strategies because, running... There's been quite a few incidents now of our drivers running, behind each other. It happened in the last game too, I'm not saying that. But it's been more incidents in this year's game than last year's games where they will just straight up run into each other and take each other out. So if we can, we do want to limit the chance of something like that happening. And that is why we're going to be running strategies like these. So in this case, we haven't set up the best one here for Tsunoda. We can probably move those substance a half to the left like so. That kind of fixes it. And let's compare it to, say, if we do a very aggressive soft to hard stint here. That would end up with about 1924. That's the best it can do. This is still 17 seconds quicker. If we were to do medium to hard, do this. It's going to be slightly quicker again, but not by much. And if we say we're to use all these tires, like so, it'd actually be quicker than what we have cooked up right now. As you can see, it's theoretically quicker. Which puts us in a bit of an interesting situation here, because as I said, if you can do full attack stints on hards, they are actually very, very viable. And this kind of, again, shows that. We can start on the softs, we can go hards, then we can go mediums. And it is, in theory, 2 versus 1907, 5 seconds quicker. So don't discount the hards, even if they tell you that that they're slower, because we can actually just do this. For instance, we can put the hards into another stint here with the softs, and that gives us basically the same race time as for Tsunoda, but it puts them on different strategies, which is kind of what we want. So it doesn't really, though. That's the thing here. We are going to be pitting Tsunoda earlier, so that should be enough of a gap there that they won't be in trouble with each other, at least. So yeah, these strategies are basically the same in terms of time. And I think we're actually going to do the same here for Lawson, but we're going to do one slight change. We're going to put him on the medium tire first. And again, I'm basically just making strategies here based on what will be the best for us. So if we do it like this, basically stretch the hards here if we need to. This gives us the potential best race time at 1:19.01. But it should also, as I say, split their strategies up a little bit so that they don't run too close to each other for the most part. They are both pretty quick here. We have made a really good car. So there's no need for us to be overly aggressive. But the goal here for Lawson is going to be to secure a fastest lap. So Tsunoda can still go on to a soft stint here at the end if we feel the need. But yeah, even if those hards are, in theory, as you can see, 8/10 slower than the softs from the get-go, takes 20 laps before they catch up, they are still very, very viable if you can exchange them for a medium. In this case, what we're exchanging the hard stint here for is basically a medium aggressive stint. And that is basically saving us a lot of money. Look at this, even if we run these mediums on attack, even with a pace drop off here, we still gain time, and that's the thing. If we take a look here at the hards, let's say that we want to run them a little bit calmer, we suddenly have lost 17 seconds. So attack here, again, very, very viable in this game. It's probably a bit too viable, because degradation really should be a lot higher when you're running attack, especially if you're overcooking your tires. And I've probably said this too much, but again, it's what I genuinely feel, and that is probably why I'm so, strongly advocating for it. But we're running basically both cars on the same strategy, just flipping the order around a little bit to make things a little bit easier for ourselves. And with that, let's just jump into it, see how we see if we can get away from the rest of the teams. So some of them have actually chosen to start on the hard tires here. Everyone, that's loud. Everyone in the top 10, apart from us, has actually elected to start on a harder compound. And that is actually going to be massively beneficial for us, because that is going to make our life a lot easier in terms of just getting away. Now, Leclerc's already overtaken Norris, which means that potentially we'll have him trying to chase us down. Lawson is already also falling back behind Tsunoda, so that could be, a little bit bad for him. Because again, we do need to instate the gaps here. That's the goal. The gap between Leclerc and Lawson needs to be big enough that he can't take advantage of the hards to, get the RS off of us. And that's going to be the main thing here, really, to make our life a bit easier. Tsunoda has already pulled away. Those softs really doing work. So yeah, we can't complain too much. In terms of the tire temps here, when they will be going on to, superheating, 130 degrees for the mediums, 125 for the softs here, so we still have a lot to go on, although I have not kept an eye on the battery, and that does kind of backfire here. But we have instated the gaps here. We have a gap from Lawson to Tsunoda, we have a gap from Lawson to Leclerc, and honestly at this point we're basically fine with just running them to let them run like they are. We're going to be running again down to about 1.2 kilograms of fuel. But this is already looking very promising. We'll have to see if there are, incidents happen that might force us to change strategy. But for now, we're very happy with the current situation. We have reached the optimal lap here for pit stopping. And as you can see, Tsunoda has, over the course of 15 laps, gained 21 seconds. Down to Russell, Stroll, Norris, Leclerc. There's been a little bit of shifts here. But generally, they're all still running in that same DRS train, all the way down to 12th. So what we are going to do here, I think for safety's sake, is actually extend by a couple laps, because we're still running good 4/10, almost 8/10 quicker than the other teams. So we're going to extend by 1 lap here for Tsunoda, although probably could. It's going to be risky to extend anything more than that, and we'll get him onto the hards. It's estimated that he's going to come out in 4th, which means he's going to be fighting Russell and Stroll, but he should be getting enough time over the course of this lap where that won't actually be an issue. Now, Lawson is going to have a bit of a harder conundrum here, especially since everyone is on the hards here. So he's actually going to have to pick through a lot of cars as a result. So Tsunoda now has gotten the pit stop done. He's going to come out in healthily ahead of both Stroll and the Ferrari there. But yeah, the main concern is going to be Lawson. Degradation-wise, he's also looking good, probably having a little bit more degradation than we expected. But when he comes out here, he's going to have one heck of a DRS train to contend with. So honestly, I think we want to stay out on these mediums as long as they will allow us, basically. And for Tsunoda, I'm curious about what his lap times are going to look like on these new hards versus their older hards. And of course, the fact that we are running attack. And as you can see, we're running 20.9s. We're gaining over a second already. By the time they pit from the hards, we'll already have made up that 1 pit stop. Meaning that, well, basically a 2-stopper is going to be not a real problem for us. Now, if Lawson can somewhat extend his laps here, although we are getting to the point where we have to pit now, and we're basically no longer extending. It's a bit unfortunate, but he is most likely gonna just pit out in traffic, and as you can see, he's just barely making do with the time given, and that's just how it's probably gonna be. He is a bit slower than Tsunoda, so we'll just have to deal with that as we go. But Tsunoda was straight up flying on that first stint. He gained 7 seconds to Lawson, gained 21 seconds to the rest of the pack, so honestly, I'd say that was a pretty dominant performance. Lawson, no problems with the pit stop. Is actually going to sneak out there in third behind Russell. So that does work out really, really well, although does lose out there a little bit to Stroll. I think this shouldn't be a problem here with now getting the overtakes done. Luckily enough, we didn't get too bogged down. We only have that Ferrari to overtake, and then we will basically be, I think, back to flying away. So I don't expect this to be any problem, even if we just deployed the little ERS that we have it to get by. Now, Lawson still only has medium confidence, so I don't want to put him into anything that is high risk. Because we have DRS, we have a really quick car, although the energy didn't really, you know, pay off here. Overtaking that older Ferrari, the Ferrari on the older tires, not the older Ferrari. I'm talking like it's a grandpa. Shouldn't be a problem, and now that we're by, we should just see ourselves flying away. And as you can see, Gio, Stroll, they're both about to do their first pit stop. For Lawson here, we might go ahead and just recharge a little bit on the ERS to try and help pull away from Russell, but I think we'll just do that on the own. Shouldn't actually be a problem. Should get that done fairly quick. Right now we are pulling away from Leclerc, so we can get some gaps going here in that DRS train. Life's going to be a lot easier when we do the final pit stop. But for now, once again, we're just going to speed things along. Degradation here is lower than expected on the hards, so should have no problem keeping these alive as long as we need to. Lawson had a bit of an incident here. As you can see here, he does actually lose out there, drops down to 8th. I would think there was, you know, a safe gap here between Magnus and here that he could have slotted into, but it is what it is. We lose about, what, 7 seconds, 8 seconds up to Russell. So we'll have a little bit of a fight here to get him back in. Doesn't lose too much of the tire though, so honestly, it's not a big concern, particularly when the you know, the tire degradation is lower than anticipated. And again, remember, we have about 10 degrees to go on still before we start to severely overheat. So we're still in that moderate window. Lawson still gets overtakes done while recharging, so I think he'll just fly through the pack again. And honestly, it shouldn't be an issue. We have a virtual safety car at the moment. Luckily, none of our drivers have been involved, but this is going to allow some cars to pit with a bit of a, you know, advantage. Giovinazzi has a bit of an incident. Italian Jesus. That should be him out.
That's the moment of impact, and the car leaving a bit of paint.
And he almost takes down his teammate as well, so a bit unfortunate there for them. But this isn't actually a problem. Even if they pit, it's actually not bad for us. We still have more than enough car here that it won't be a problem. Tsunoda again is running half a second quicker. Sorry, half a minute. Is half a minute ahead of the rest of the pack. So we don't really have any concerns in terms of needing to pit here. And we're probably just going to go ahead and stretch these hard tires to the point where we can just go on another set of softs and snatch fastest lap. So honestly, not a problem, as I said. Now, everyone else except for Magnussen here has pitted 2 mediums behind. We can expect them to stay on those mediums till the end, which means that they might actually end up catching Lawson somewhat here. But honestly, I don't think it'll be a problem. Even when we do pit, we're going to be pitting onto the soft tire, and that should be more than enough that we can make up the time lost in such a scenario. So we'll speed along here till the final pit stop. Getting very, very close to that pit stop for Lawson in particular. But what I'm thinking that we are going to do here is probably just get him in, go onto the soft tire. It should speed him up by, as you can see, 1.8 seconds a lap from the get-go. And he is going to be falling down the grid a bit here, down to potentially Verstappen and Gasly. So it's going to have a bit of a job ahead of him in terms of overtaking. Now, with Tsunoda, however, we have a bit of a different plan. Because, well, as you can see, we're just going to keep on going on these hards until we reach basically the end of their life cycle. And then we'll just put them onto a set of softs. Because, again, there's no real concern here for Tsunoda. He's a good 32 seconds ahead of Lawson. Even more ahead of the rest of the pack. So I don't think we'll have any big concerns there in terms of getting him in, pitting him. Even with that, even if we hit that low chance of an error, he should still have no problem coming out way ahead of everyone else. So we'll be pitting him in the near future. But for Lawson now, the goal is of course going to be to hunt down all the cars in front. We do have a virtual safety car here, which honestly we might as well just take advantage of, get Tsunoda in under. And for Lawson here, this is a bit unfortunate because it had it been a lap earlier, it would have been great for him.
I'm in the wall.
Camera pans away, makes it look, you know, way more dangerous than it was. That's a tie set. I don't expect maybe Stroll could decide to peel in. But I don't expect anyone else to really take advantage of this safety car, in all honesty. Can't really see it happening, but Tsunoda there will still have a very, very healthy lead, as I said. Of course, this will be less, probably 20 seconds or so. But, as you see, stable at 35 seconds. That is pretty healthy when you have just recently pitted onto your final set of tires. So yeah. We're gonna see what we can do though here with Lawson. The virtual safety car is also slowing down his opportunities of getting overtakes done. And for Tsunoda here, we're just gonna deploy here, use this as basically the warm-up lap. And then we're gonna go ahead and go for fastest lap. I am gonna give a little bit of a deploy order here to Lawson because we are kind of running out of time if you want to try and hunt down Russell, Norris, and Leclerc. So we do need to get by Stroll and Ocon ASAP. Gonna use a little bit of energy to catch up to them and see if we can get by them quick as can be. Also now with fastest lap, I assume Tsunoda is going to beat that handedly once given the opportunity. And as you can see, Lawson is kind of flying. I guess is the best way to describe it. But depending on how long we get stuck behind Ocon here, it could definitely, you know, hurt us quite drastically if we are unlucky. So we need to get by as quickly as we can. 1:17.7 there for Tsunoda. So that is pretty quick. Is it quick enough to beat the historic best? Yes, 1:19. And we are beating that by 1.3 seconds. I'd say that is pretty dominating here. Lawson has gotten by the other two cars. He'll now start hunting down Sainz. And we are still running pretty good lap times here. We were pushing, but we were still stuck behind the car. We're still running a second quicker. Probably not going to be able to catch these three if we keep this pace up. But it is what it is, unfortunately. Running a bit quicker at 18.5 now. 2 seconds quicker than Russell, so potentially could get it done if we get there in time. It's going to be the big one. Now, for Tsunoda here, I'm actually just going to tune him down. Because again, he has a full half minute ahead of the rest. There's no need to, you know, push him too hard.
Try to cool down the tires again when you can. Cool down the tires when you can.
When we don't need to. And as you can see there, we got the overtake done on Sainz. Lawson now 4 seconds behind the trio. And we'll see if he can actually hunt them down and finish his first race here on the podium maybe. With basically 5 laps to go. We might also need to recharge him a little bit here on the way there. Put him on top up maybe. We'll be pulling Sainz along, which might be a bad thing, but Norris has actually fallen off the DRS train, which should make a potential overtake a lot easier. Also, of course, once we actually catch up to Russell and Leclerc, it's going to be a lot easier. So we're just going to leave it as is for now. I think Lawson should have, yeah, peak driver confidence here. So we're just going to do it like this. That he, you know, maximizes kind of risk-taking for one, but also it should make it a lot easier to just get those overtakes done. As we see him flying past the McLaren. 3 laps to go now. We still have a little bit to go before we're on 3 laps. So he's definitely going to be able to catch up to Russell and Leclerc at this rate. they've stepped on the gas a bit more, to be fair, but even then, we should be able to catch up. And as you can see, both of these times are actually quicker than the fastest time that was set last year by Stroll of 1:19. We still have fuel, we still have tire. There's no real concern here on that perspective. Lawson there apparently just flies by Leclerc. And the question now is, can he also just fly by Russell? Which honestly, I don't think is going to be too much of a problem here. Tsunoda is on his last lap though, but we are 42 seconds behind, which means that we are almost lapped. Well, not almost. We have about half a minute before we're lapped. Lawson there does send it on Russell. He does now have the lead. The question is now, can he actually, you know, retain that lead till the end? Looks like Russell is sending an attack. And honestly, 2x, that angle is a little bit too much for me. So we'll just watch it in 2x like this till the end. But yeah, I think Lawson here has secured second. Probably a little bit more fighting than we needed with that lockup. But we will take this for sure. And as you can see, even with DRS, the Ferrari is barely gaining. So yeah, we'll take this. It worked out pretty well for us. And then we have the Reese and Behrman. Fortunately, not a good race here for Schumacher. But I want to. And Lawson's opening race, well, it's him getting second place. It's pretty good. Tsunoda once again gets fastest lap, wins the race. Maybe we'll see this season who actually maximize his points. If by the end of this year he has all the fastest lap records, maybe. But I believe there's something that just can't be broken. So we'll have to see. But it looks promising for now. Again, both of these laps are over a second quicker than the fastest. We can see Sainz here actually beat it as well. Same here with Verstappen. So not too surprising. The AI can also beat it. We just beat it drastically. Ferrari 3rd and 5th. Red Bull 4th and 9th. Didn't see much of Verstappen in this race, honestly. Which is usually how it goes when you start a little bit further down the grid. 6th there for McLaren is still something they'll be happy with. Gasly manages to make up 10 places for Alpine. Pretty good for him. Again, he probably could have gotten Verstappen. That is pretty close. There's a driver championship here now. Lawson moves up to, you know, 7th. I'm curious to see exactly where Rick ends up being by the end of the season if he, you know, doesn't get a new team. That is going to be, you know, interesting to watch. Maximized points so far from Tsunoda. Can he have a flawless season? It's going to be the big question here. Probably not, but we'll do our best on that. We still have a very healthy lead here, but Ferrari has overtaken Red Bull. McLaren now puts themselves up into 4th. So is this just a one-off thing, or are they going to keep on improving? We'll have to see. Mercedes with the fastest pit stop. Alpine is in here. We are 2nd and 3rd. So again, this year it's going to be difficult, I think, to win the fastest pit stop award, but we'll do our best to see if we can make that happen. Good pit stops from the crew for both cars, which is what we like to see. As you can see, first in practice for both drives apparently. Qualifying 1-2, race 1-2. Very happy with that. And as you see from Contreras, best lap time here, pretty slow compared to the boys, but then again, she did this on hards, so it's not too bad. Up to 59 now, currently. It gives us a lot of decent money from the performance targets here, 3.7 million base, 5 million total. We can be very, very happy with this. Suspension design has been completed, and as I said, we're not actually going to be making a new suspension, but what we are going to be doing is manufacture 4 of these, because again, once those that we're currently using take damage, we can just put on the new better ones. And honestly, we'll just do that for chassis too, make 4 of these. And that should cover most of our, you know, chassis and suspension needs to the end of the season. And again, we will leave that slot open for now, because the main thing that we want to focus on is research. The feature race, Boya wins for the F3 race, Soncho 2nd, Huntiani 3rd, Mini, Novalak, and Stanek for the F2 race. We did have a failed front wing, which honestly is not a problem. We just replace that and we can manufacture a new one. Problem solved, nothing major there. But yeah, it was a pretty good showing so far already from our boys. So we'll see if we can keep that going. I do want to have a look at Contreras though, because she is apparently leveled up. Not in smoothness or braking, however, so we'll see how this goes. Also, it's going to be interesting to have a driver with low aggression. Would assume that is, you know, less of a chance of error. Wind tunnel data concern, it's going to pause the design projects for 8 days. Wind tunnel shut down for 8 days. I think it's fine that we do it now. It's going to slow down the projects there. We will approve of this investigation. And the ones here that is going to be, you know, later finished, we'll just put some more engineers on. So, let's see. Yeah, put 4 engineers on this one. And we put the remainers in here. And that should help with the little, you know, delay. It won't be as bad with that. Murphy has low morale again. We get this a lot here, but honestly can't do anything about it, to be fair, so we will not. Board confidence checking, high confidence, which is good to see. Lawson has leveled up 3 points there, reaction, defending, and control. Sonoda, adaptability and reactions, and out of curiosity here, Contreras has gotten 2 points in cornering, an adaptability point, and another defending point, so yeah, levels up nicely there as well. As the pit crew training, we have them basically maxed already, so honestly, as long as this doesn't bring us into the weary level for the race weekend, we are perfectly fine with just letting this be as it is. There's nothing really gained from changing anything there either, so we'll just leave that, again, as it is for now. New regulation vote is coming in pretty soon. I'm actually looking forward to seeing just how badly we're going to get hit. And they did discover a fault that could have escalated over time, so I'm happy with us getting, you know, that sorted out before it becomes an issue. Now, we'll still be a little bit slower there on the designs, but honestly, it's not a problem. Regulation mode, major technical regulations for 26 season. Significant change to suspension. Okay. So, I guess suspension is going to hit 70%. The rest of it is going to hit 50 or, as you can see, 55% and 65. I think we'll just vote for the complete suspension overhaul. 5 extra percent in suspension is better than an extra 5% everywhere else. So we're just going to go with a complete overhaul here. 50 to 70% on everything, basically. So that's going to be interesting to see how we actually deal with here. Manufacturing on the underfloor is completed, which means that we can now actually put it on both cars. Let's go ahead and do that. And we'll have a look at Baku again, how our car actually stacks up now. Front wing design has completed. We might want to manufacture this one. Or we might not, probably. Probably will not be using this one, although the brake cooling boost is kind of nice. We'll just leave that as it is for now. And again, we can't start research until we get the results. You can actually see it here, until we get the results here. So the 14th of April, which is actually tomorrow. So let's see what we actually get hit with here in terms of regulation changes. Research period has begun. It voted for major technical changes in favor of hard hits to suspension. Only Mercedes Alpine has and Alfa Romeo voted for the other option. So yeah, we got what we wanted, but even so, this is going to be an interesting one. As you can see, we're losing 34% engine cooling, 30% airflow. For the suspension, it's going to be even more massive. Look at this, basically 40% drop. But it does allow us. The thing in it now that's actually kind of interesting is that with a 50% regulation hit, we can actually see how high our expertise is. So in this case, we're actually just about 65% on the front wing. So we actually still have a lot to go on. Because again, expertise this year is bundled in with your staff, making it harder to see. I'm curious about our underfloor here. That's actually closer to 75%, which is honestly good. But it means that we do have a little bit more performance that we can actually get from these regulation changes. But yeah, side pods here. Again, most things here are pretty balanced, honestly. Let's see what we want to do in terms of research first. Because that is the thing. The first research here is going to be probably the suspension. Probably do want to put in RCP and mile hours. Or we might actually want to do, say, you know, the underfloor maybe. But as you can see here, already this is going to give us 10% drag reduction in return, 10% brake cooling, airflow front. Remember, we're losing about 30% here. This isn't actually accurate. So this is giving us a lot of it back, but we need to run 3 projects like this just to catch up on the, you know, the suspension that is getting hit hardest. Now, if we were to invest this time instead in, say, the wind tunnel and wind tunnel CFD time into the underfloor, we'd have much higher gains in return. So that is basically what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at the gains here from investing this time. And if we look at the rear wing, I don't think we're going to get numbers even comparable to, you know, what we expected. But as you can see, this is what we're expecting it to be next year. I'm a bit unsure why the cooling is as high as it is. But yeah, it's still not great, honestly. And it does really look here like what we are going to be investing this first CFD time, CFD period into is going to be that underfloor. It seems to just be the best bang for our buck here. Front wing is still also a good bet, honestly. As you can see, it does now reflect it a little bit better. I think it only reflects it from the perspective of this piece, which is why, as you can see there, next year we would have 48% DRS effectiveness with that part. Which means that you're going to have to go into individual pieces to get a proper, you know, overview. But at the same time, it is what it is. I really would like if you could just get a research, you know, show my current expected car performance for next year instead of individual pieces. But yeah, I think underfloor is going to be just straight up the best bet here. We're having a quick look here again on the suspension. The low speed cornering is of course very nice. The brake cooling is of course also very nice. But I think the gain from the underfloor is high enough that this first period is going to be going to the underfloor just for that reason. We're not getting as much low speed cornering here, but I think we're going to have to, again, just spread our periods out. This first one I'm going to put into underfloor. It is the base of the car that we do use. We have 5 periods. We can put it 1 period into each of 5 pieces, so we still have a little bit to go on from that perspective, so it's not all bad, to be fair. Now we are actually going to have to kidnap an engineer of the chassis project here, just so we can actually start another research project. And this one is just going to be on the suspension. We are going to have to do a lot of research project on the suspension just to catch up with the losses that we're getting. So we are of course going to do one more here just immediately. They take very long, 40 days. So the quicker we get started, the better really. But yeah, regulation changes like that are going to be a bit of a pain. And we'll have to see how much we can alleviate. We're probably not going to be able to catch up with all of them, but we should be able to, you know, get most of them. And it's going to be very interesting in the next season to see how our car looks versus the AIs. Now with that in mind, let us speed along here to the next race, which is in Baku, the first sprint race of the season. Murphy still has low morale. He's had that since he arrived. So again, I feel like that one is a bit redundant. And again, we'll just put one driver in the top 2. Be a little bit careful there in case we have issues. We're going to go for a 1-2 in quali. Seems like our car might be quick enough for that. We could be a little bit more pessimistic and say a 2-4 just to be on the safe side. And honestly, I think we'll do that. We'll just have to try, because last time around Lawson had the benefit of the rain. He probably will not have that this time around. So we'll tune him down a little bit and we'll see how we're looking in the qualifying here for Baku. Let's jump in. Let's see how we do. Unsurprisingly, for the sprint here, we qualified first and second. Tsunoda has about half a second on Lawson. Lawson has a good 8/10 on Verstappen. But Baku is one of those places where the 2 runs for qualifying really shows just why it's working really well. Hopefully it gets patched properly in the patch coming next week. It should. So looking forward to having a bit more competition there in quali. Of course, I could just do 1 run. But at the same time, it feels more realistic this way, to be fair. With that said, though, we're pretty dominating quali. 1-2 as we have gotten used to. It is pretty straightforward in that manner. Now, we have actually put up all the strategies that we're going to employ for this sprint here on Lawson. As you can see here, 30.09, 30.11, and 30.16. So we're probably going to go with the softs. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is for starters, degradation is not, you know, very bad, meaning the soft should still be a very, very viable strategy. Secondly, it's Baku. if we can make it through a sprint without any sort of safety car, virtual safety car, I'm actually going to be amazed. So the strategy is incredibly simple for both cars. Put on the softs, push as hard as you can, get away from the rest of the pack, and just coast to a victory. We're going to probably create some sort of, distance between them so that they don't, crash into each other. And that should be, good enough for this sprint. Pretty simple and straightforward, honestly.
Our sprint. Now's the time for the sprint here in Baku.
I assume that's red, but it looks a little bit like yellow. It was red. So yeah, soft cards on everyone. Pretty bad start there from Lawson. Gets immediately attacked by Verstappen as a result. Tsunoda got away well. Lawson is going to have a bit of a, fight here with Verstappen. But it is a drag race that we should win, I would think. But right now, we're actually losing it. So we'll have to see if we can hold on. Leclerc, Verstappen, running second and fourth at the moment. Then the Ferraris, then Ocon. So once again, bad quality for Magnussen, unfortunately. Bad quality for Albon and Norris. Particularly if you consider that they were in the points last time around. But this also does pose a bit of a problem for us now, because Lawson has lost position to Verstappen. We're going to have to get that back, but that should also make it a lot easier for us to get the gaps that we need to, push away from the rest of the pack. Leclerc here, kind of already getting left behind. Verstappen being the only one that is kind of keeping up. So we'll have to see if we can have Lawson maybe, get the overtake done. Right now, he's kind of struggling. That is generally just because we are running, well, the other teams too now are pushing very, very aggressively. Now, on sprint weekends, I personally prefer to go down to about 0.4 kilograms of fuel. It is usually a good stopping point. There's a tire temps here. We can bring these all the way up to 120 and not really see any, huge demerits, if you will. So we are going to be taking advantage of that as much as we can. Lawson here is already kind of getting ready to attack Verstappen. So what we're going to do here is actually just chill behind him for another lap. Recharge the ERS and try and get away here in the near future. But he is actually sticking with Tsunoda, and that could be a bit of a problem here for Lawson, who's actually now lost a lot of time there on the recharge. A little bit more than I expected he would. So this sprint might be a little bit, cheeky than I thought. And we'll have to see if we can have Tsunoda pull away from Verstappen. Right now, Verstappen is running with us. So what I'm thinking is that we'll try and take advantage of a time when, well, we have DRS on either the main straight or this straight, and then work from there. But now, though, we're going to try and get Lawson back up. And we'll see what this sprint actually ends up giving to us in terms of points. And we already have a safety car. It says safety car, virtual safety car. I assume we actually got both there. Multiple cars have crashed. Show is out. We are back running 1 and 2. But at the same time, this is kind of what we expect on this track here. Show versus Piastri. And Piastri just taps him on the rear tire there. Probably didn't have enough space. Yeah. We did get away from Verstappen though, as you saw before this safety car got called in. I guess we had another incident here following that. Someone touching the front wing of Piastri. Nope. But yeah, that is basically what you expect for Baku. We did get away from the Red Bull, as I said, and the way we did that is actually incredibly simple. As it turns out, the Red Bull is pretty bad at cornering. They probably have us actually beat on the straight line speeds because of the better driver. But because our car is so good at cornering compared to Red Bull, if we just deploy ERS through this section here, we can basically gain upwards to 2 or more seconds, which makes it incredibly easy for us to just, pull away from them incredibly quickly. So that worked out to our benefit here. But yeah, safety car, not really the best thing ever for us, but we'll just have to live with it. Degradation-wise too, even while we're running full attack, we aren't too far off the other cars. So yeah, I don't think we have any real concerns here. The main thing now will just be to pull away once the safety car is over and done with, which honestly shouldn't be a problem. Again, as I said, we have a huge advantage when it comes to cornering ability. So as long as we stay ahead into this corner here, we can pull away throughout this section here, basically more than half the track, and that makes our lives fairly easy. Now, because we had so many laps under the safety car, we have basically fuel now to push till the end. We are going to be deploying ERS in the hopes of getting away. And potentially, this could cause an incident for us, but we're going to hoping that we avoid that. See them running back to back here. Yeah, the goal now for our boys is, again, just pull away. See if we can create a gap to Verstappen, and then work from there. Right now it is looking promising, though. And we're basically going to be doing the exact same thing during the race itself. That is going to be the goal. But we got away clean on the restart. That is really all that matters here. As I said, we'll be tuning down the cars once we get a little bit further ahead. But I also think that we'll be tuning down Lawson maybe a tad bit too. Just so that he doesn't, you know, take out Tsunoda. We might actually go ahead and give him the don't fight teammate command because, well, it's three laps left of the sprint. Although it is kind of, you know, not very nice to do. We're just going to do it so that we have a potential safe end to the sprint here. We're actually going to tune Lawson down here to standard as well because I do want him to have a bit of a gap there to Tsunoda. Just for safety's sake, basically. All that is necessary now to put us both at the back of the race is just one bad lockup. So we're tuning him down. Again, playing a bit safe, and that is what we're going to be doing this season. Because I do want to have no sticks in the wheels for next season in terms of getting the research done. And that is basically going to be the goal. We are on the final lap here. We have gained already about 4 seconds down to Leclerc. So, yeah, we're just going to speed through, get the sprint done with, and then set up a strategy for the race itself. Now, for the sprint, you basically just want to put whatever tire you can do, you know, an aggressive strategy on, and that will usually do well for you. Red Bull's 34th, we have Ocon in 5th. Bit of a shame that Magnussen isn't seeing the same results as Ocon is in Mercedes, but Ocon is kind of bringing it back. Norris just outside the points here. But yeah, once again, maximum points for the team. If we can keep that up for a whole season, I would be rather impressed. Now, pit lane here is very short. 22 seconds, not the shortest, but basically just 3 seconds of that into, you know, that first corner. So it's not a bad place to do pit stops on. In terms of the compounds, the softs are about 3/10 quicker than the mediums here. And with only 200 of degradation, they're basically quick for a good 15 or so laps. Now, this is one of the longest circuits on the calendar, meaning that the softs being quicker for 15 laps out of 51 is actually incredibly powerful. And with that in mind, well, they're actually quicker for a bit more than that, because as you can see here, it's not a clear 3, it's actually 3600s, so they're actually quicker for 18 laps. Meaning that the softs is probably going to be your best bet here for the most part. Medium to hard is, again, for tenths. 200 difference, 20 laps. So we kind of want to avoid the hards here as much as we can. So while a one-stopper is very, very viable here, even on full attack, as you can see. 31.22. I think what we are going to be doing here is probably do a cheeky medium, although, again, although I say hards might not be the best choice here, depending on degradation and the tires that we have available, in Lawson's case here, we might not really have much of a choice. We can actually almost survive on just a one-stop like this. But we want to stretch those softs, and then we want to do another medium stint, full attack. Split them in the middle here. Is it going to be faster? Not really, a little bit. But it'll basically depend on where the other cars are when we end up pitting. So this one will give us a 31.16, this will give us a 31.22. But I'm a bit surprised that Lawson doesn't actually have extra softs, but he doesn't. Tsunoda has, however. Lawson has 4 mediums and 2 hards. Yeah, the AI kind of went buck wild here on the they're using softs for quali. Sorry, for practice, because what has happened here is I think they've used 2 sets of softs in each practice, which is mad, honestly. Now, this is also a basic strategy here. As you can see, you can do this, but this one is still going to be quicker. we could try, you know, something like this, but again, I don't think no matter how we move things here, this is going to be quicker than the one that we have. The only thing we really could do here is move the softs a little bit, move the hards a little bit this way, and even then, it gets close, don't get me wrong, but this is still going to be more beneficial for Lawson. Now, for Tsunoda, he does have 2 sets of softs, so what we're going to do here is do, once again, an inverted strategy. Basically securing fastest lap for 1, but also making sure that, you know, our drivers are on different strategies. 31:16, which should be the exact, you know, time of Lawson's stint. We have 2 soft tires. We are not taking full advantage of them here, basically because we're staying out longer on the medium. But with the amount of soft tires, medium tires that Tsunoda has, if we have safety cars, we have a lot of flexibility. Honestly, starting Lawson on a medium tire would probably be better in terms of the flexibility. But we want them on different strategies. This is okay. This is not optimized by any means, but it'll get the job done. Again, I'm kind of stretching that medium stint longer than it needs to be, so we can make sure that we can secure fastest lap for Tsunoda in that final stint, and still have plenty of tire left to use there. That's going to be a strategy. Let's see if it actually works out to our advantage here.
Checks. This is what you've been waiting for. It's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And it's lights out.
That was pretty quick. Better start this time around, it looks like. Lawson shouldn't be under immediate threat from Red Bull, which is nice. Should actually slot in front of him if he really wants to, like so. And that makes our lives already a lot simpler. Now, Leclerc and Verstappen hold on to their position. Ocon lost out 1. Red Bull is still kind of aggressive here. In terms of the tires, we are one of the few medium runners. Most of them are further down the pack, but everyone is on either medium or soft. So no big surprises. Now, honestly, letting Lawson go here would probably be the best move. So we're actually going to allow Tsunoda to let him go. Hopefully he doesn't lose too much time by doing that. And he can still stay ahead of the Red Bull. And we did lose a bit of time there to do that, to be fair. But I think it's better to let Lawson go here. He has the soft tires if he can pull away. Right now it doesn't actually look like he can. But we'll see over the course of this next lap here. Because if Tsunoda catches him, that would actually be kind of... Yikes. He is actually catching him. I would have thought Lawson there would actually be able to pull out of the... pull away from Tsunoda, is what I'm trying to say. Now, Leclerc has pulled away from Verstappen, so we have only 1 Red Bull to contend with at the moment. Which isn't too bad. But I would assume Tsunoda is just going to fly by Lawson here. And he is. And honestly, this could work in terms of just leaving Leclerc behind. But again, I'm not too comfortable with, in the current game, to allow 2 drivers to basically run back-to-back. So we'll have to see exactly how we want to do this. I think what we're going to do here is tell them low aggression on the overtakes and rarely defend. And that should keep both of them as safe as we can, you know, get them at this stage. Ocon, though, has done well. He's kind of fighting the Red Bull there. So Mercedes back in the fight. And we, unsurprisingly, immediately have a virtual safety car.
Follow the reference.
Bottas out, unfortunately. But yeah, this is kind of what you expect at Baku. Just a bunch of incidents back to back to back. Hopefully he stays clear on that McLaren. He did. But yeah, that's him out. Rear suspension broken. Looked like some damage to the gearbox as well with the sparks. And rear wing gone for sure. So that is him just straight up out. But at the same time, we have gotten here a good gap down to Ocon, almost 5 seconds. We're going to allow Tsunoda and Lawson to run alongside each other. We're still going to go about a kilogram deficit on the fuel. And we'll see where we're at with that plan once we get to that first pit stop in about 10 or so laps. But yeah, I think we're in a pretty stable position, so we'll just speed things along here. We're getting very close to that first pit stop of ours. It's probably going to be this lap here for Lawson. It's not a perfect gap here to pit into, unfortunately, but it's probably the best that we're going to get. In terms of lifetimes, though, we are quite a bit quicker than the cars behind. So what we are going to do here is actually just stretch Lawson a little bit. It won't do wonders for his full race pace, but it will allow us to safely pit without, you know, getting into trouble with Leclerc, Ocon, Verstappen. And hopefully here the goal is, of course, getting out ahead of them, or, you know, not too far back there. And as I said, we are gaining lifetime compared to the cars behind still. So there's no real concern here in terms of when we have to pit. We don't have to jump in at any specific time. We just have to do it before the tires start falling completely off. So in this first stint here, Lawson has gained basically 18 seconds on the cars behind. Tsunoda still has a few more laps to do. But generally, we have been running way quicker than the cars, well, that we are competing with. And it has benefited us greatly. Now, Lawson actually manages to sneak out just ahead of Leclerc, meaning that staying out for an extra lap there did kind of help him. And we are just going to deploy ERS here, and that should be enough to, in this windy section, actually get enough of an advantage over Leclerc, with of course the new tires as well, that he'll be out of DRS by the time we reach the straight. So, Lawson here, got his pit stop done pretty cleanly, no real problems there in terms of being a tow for other drivers. And for Tsunoda here, we're just going to be doing the same. He's going to have, probably get jumped by Lawson here, in all honesty, but that shouldn't be too much of a concern. Lawson here, we should probably also go ahead and modify the medium stint here, probably stretch it by a few more laps as we did with the softs, to make up for, well, the pace change there. Now, in terms of the other cars here, as you can see, they are running softs. They've been running them for a fair amount of time, but even so, we have actually high degradation on the mediums because we're pushing them more aggressively, but we're also getting a lot more race pace out of them, so can't really complain too much. And lap time wise now, we're actually slower than Verstappen, but looking at the numbers here, I would assume he got a tow. So if we have a look right now, yeah, 48 basically blank on the lead. We're still running a few tenths quicker. Lawson is gaining on us, of course, but honestly, it's not a big concern of ours. We're going to be waiting a couple of laps to pit, just so that we don't actually cause too much problems with Lawson. We're going to come out between him and Verstappen. And honestly, might as well just pit this lap, stretch these off a little bit more to get a good potential finish. But yeah, things are looking really good. And as I said, we are going to probably sacrifice Lawson here a little bit in terms of, well, that is not what I intended, but it looks like he has had a bit of an incident here. I can see a front wing is broken, so when I said sacrifice Lawson, this is not what I had in mind, but it is a red flag. Hopefully the damage isn't too severe. That was some black magic involved.
It's not going the way the team had hoped today.
Yeah, the physics engine might need a little bit of a tweak here with what we've seen with Piastri in my stream. Probably upload that early today. If not, it's going to be up tomorrow. Lawson does retire though. Major damage to chassis. It will be unable to restart the session. It is what it is. It happened. So let's be honest. So we're not going to have a perfect season here, unfortunately. But what I am more curious about is what happened to Leclerc there, because he did pull off some black magic.
It's lights out, and away we go.
Lights out and away we go. And I believe that is a very good start there for Tsunoda. And surprisingly, only Piastri has opted to go on the hards, which he'll be on until the end of the race. To be fair though, I'm pretty sure the medium runners too are going to be staying on their tires till the end of the race, so it shouldn't come as much of a surprise. Science is actually fighting us a little bit, but hopefully we can pull away. I would hope. We already pulled away from Verstappen, but yeah, I need to go back and have a look at what happened to Leclerc there, because, well, as I said, the physics engine in this game seems to have been doing some fun stuff lately. But yeah, we're going to be trying to, of course, push away from Sainz, so we are still going to be going for that extra pit stop. We might just end up stretching these offs a little bit longer as a result. In terms of lap times here, I would expect us to run a lot quicker than any of the other cars, so Sainz should be left behind pretty quickly. If not, we're going to be leaving him behind on the windy section. on this lap, I would assume. And I'm pretty sure that we are pulling him along with us here. So yeah, once we get to this windy section, basically castle section, if you will. I call it windy, but it's technically just cornery. We do get that gap immediately. So we're going to speed along here, and we'll see where we're at once we get to that potential pit stop of ours. Alright, we're getting very close to the pit stop here. I've run these tires absolutely into the ground because, once again, we do want to try and get the fastest lap here. It is Leclerc's 43 blank lap from 2019. So it's going to require a little bit of prep here to actually get the fastest lap actually stolen. Tsunoda does now pit. Sainz could potentially come out ahead here. We'll have to see how long that pit stop is. 1.9. We get away safely, which should mean that he has no chance of catching up to us. But we are probably going to have to do a little bit of harvesting here. Do one lap basically as warm-up prep before we do a push lap. So we're going to warm up on this lap and the next one as basically kind of just prepping, if you will. And while Verstappen and Sainz are going to get close, they shouldn't get close enough where it actually is going to be a concern. So we'll use a little bit of the sauce, of course, at doing this, but honestly, we kind of are going to need to, because we don't really have the correct amount of energy. But with 2 megajoules here, I wrongly in the past said gigajoules, which would be a massive amount of energy, but there's actually megajoules. With 2 of it already harvested, we can probably go ahead here and deploy, or at least put it to neutral. And we're going to start pushing from here on out, and we're just going to be deploying now for the straight and try and see if we can set a new fastest lap here. We're going to have to beat a 1:43, and let us see here what we have to offer. That's just a 43.5. Let's see if we can beat that. First sector, purple. What are we getting for the second sector here? Again, we have kind of let go. Not really anything we can tweak with in terms of settings. Second sector is also purple. We have run out of ERS though, so maybe we should have charged a little bit more.
Okay.
And the final sector here, is it going to be... Are we going to reach the line before it takes 43? I think we'll have a handily beat here. And we do, with a green final sector, because we did run out of ERS there. We are going to go ahead here and recharge immediately, because we kind of need to. And as you can see, we did beat that time handedly. We're even 4 seconds quicker than second place Verstappen here. So, yeah, pitting once more was probably the right choice for sure. And, well, Piastri might have probably benefited from using our strategy as well. For now, though, we're just going to harvest a tad. We're going to go balance here on the fuel. And we're just going to allow this race to reach its natural conclusion. I am wondering what happened to Lawson, though. I would assume that he had a bit of a spin, judging by damage. Either that or he hit the wall full speed. Kind of like Leclerc's I'm stupid. But we'll see once we get out of the race. I was probably a little bit too baffled about what happened to Leclerc there when it said crash. That I kind of didn't actually see what happened to Lawson. But I'll also be reviewing that because that looked kind of silly. Tsunoda wins. 20 seconds on Verstappen. Even while running standard here, we've gained a good 3 seconds a lap. So yeah, Baku definitely still
right to the top of
a track where you can take advantage of the soft tires. And, well, aggressive pit stops, if you will. But we do have the fastest cars. This should actually not come as a surprise at all. Tsunoda, once again, wins. Has been winning everything so far this season. Fastest laps where we can. We'll take that. Same with Lawson, but we'll have to see exactly what kind of damage he suffered. Verstappen secures second, Sainz third. We have Gasly in fourth for Alpine. Pretty massive for them. Stroll in fifth, Russell in sixth for Ferrari, then the 2 Mercs, and then the 2 McLarens. Just Driver Championship again, we have, as I said, maximized the points, which is what we're after here. We had an additional 8 points from the sprint, which is why we have 112. And in terms of the constructors then, we are looking really, really good. Ferrari and Red Bull are still fighting. I'm assuming that fight's going to go on for a while. Mercedes, Alpine, and Aston are still fighting. McLaren is also kind of in it, so could potentially also be an interesting midfield fight here. At least it is so far. Verstappen and Sainz both jump up places here. Leclerc drops down, Rick drops down, but again, I'm really tempted to see if no team picks him up, where is he going to be at the end of the season? In terms of pit stops here, because of the red flag, we're the only ones that really did them, as you can see. There were only 3 of the pit stops here, Ocon, Schumacher, and Nick. So yeah, definitely, you know, randomly allocated, which is probably not the best, but it is what it is. Gives us a huge gain here, though, compared to the other teams, which means that we'll have a bit of better chance of winning that competition. Now, we'll have to see exactly, as I said, how much damage Lawson had. Contreras did not have the best practice, but that is honestly okay. We did get a decent amount of money, though, from this, so we'll take that. And this is one of the reasons why I usually just do one driver. The sign is complete for the chassis, the sign is complete for the side pods. Let's see if there are actually anything that we would like to, say, manufacture. Side pods, definitely not. Don't really want them. But as you can see here, the car is definitely had wrecked. Missing parts, inspection failed. Let's have a look here on exactly how badly we have been, you know, ended up in problems. Mini Bottoletta and Novalak for F2. Car part inspection results. Did damage the engine here. A little bit on the DRS, a little bit on the gearbox. I assume that it was basically probably a... probably not a straight-on hit. Probably a spin into the wall is what I assume. Chassis and front wing damage. So yeah, that is what I would suspect. Both suspensions failed for both cars. But at least now we do have parts now that we can use for practice. And honestly, this damage isn't that massive. We've had way worse. So we'll take this over, you know, what could have been in terms of damage. We're still going to use the... we're still going to be using the parts that we currently have until they break. And then we're going to upgrade afterwards, later on, if you will. So we're going to use the parts to their full extent to just make our lives a little bit easier. And in terms of what I need to manufacture, it's probably just that one front wing, I would think. This is a bit of an upgrade, so... No, it isn't. Those numbers made me a little bit confused. We're just going to double check it on the car itself. Is that front wing an upgrade or not? Why is there minuses here that are... Hello? Okay, we'll have to check those numbers later because it just doesn't match up. We have United States Grand Prix coming up right now, Miami. Should be pretty simple and straightforward. But before that, though, we do have a couple of research projects that needs to be started here. Now, in terms of the wings, I do want to get the rear wing up and running. We do want to have a good DRS delta to play with. So one of these researchers are going to go to the rear wing, probably one to the front wing, and then we'll just have to alternate a little bit with side pods, chassis, and what we have. We might also want to, in the future, potentially put more researchers onto projects to speed things along. But for now, we'll do a front wing and a rear wing project. And as I said, we'll be balancing things out from where we can see gains. For instance, if the chassis here, that's a design project, that's the wrong one. But chassis, we get about 2% overall. For the rear wing, we get closer to 3%, but we need to remember this is a longer project, so really it gives us the 2% that we would have gotten for the chassis anyways. So I think we're just going to have to balance the research a little bit, switch things around. For now, though, get rear wing and front wing going. Shouldn't be a bad idea for us. Like so. And as I said, I'll have to make a bit of a decision if we want to put engineers on it, because it's going to lower the gains. It doesn't actually show up on this screen, which I assume is a bit of a bug. But it does actually lower the gains in total. I'll have more gain per day. But the problem then becomes, do I have the funds, the cost cap to make that happen? And we probably do, in all honesty. We probably have a cost cap that is, you know, good enough for us to put in extra work with the engineers. So I think we'll do that. We'll split the engineers that we have available here on the front and the rear wings. And, well, we do lose a little bit in total gain. We're going to get more if we can keep this going till the end of the season. And that's going to be the goal. Keep these projects going till the end of the season like this. Again, I know it's a bit confusing the way that I word things, but hopefully you understand my intent here. Now with that out of the way, I wanted to have a look at the facility here, particularly the design center, although the wind tunnel here probably needs a bit of a refurbishment. It's hit the red. I think we can accept a refurbishment there, just refurbish this while we're at it. But what I am thinking here is that we actually improve the design center. And the reason for this is actually twofold. The reason why I want to improve the design center comes down to two things. We are in the regulation change season where we're getting hit by pretty harsh regulations all across the board. The second reason is that the refurbish here is getting low. And the way that the design center works, there's a random event where you get 2 extra slots for 2 months. That doesn't actually work as, advertised unless you have your condition at full. Well, not full, within this final bar. Then you will not get the 2 extra slots. So that is the second reason why I kind of want to upgrade this. It's going to benefit us in the future. I really want to upgrade the suspension system, honestly. But I think we're going to put 18 million into the design center here. And that should be just fine. It's going to up our monthly upkeep, but the 5 extra engineers here can actually play a pretty huge role in terms of churning out projects, particularly when we aren't really manufacturing too many extra parts this season. And hopefully we can, even though Lawson has already proven me wrong, keep the car on the track. So we're going to gamble on this upgrade. It's probably not the best thing ever, but it will help next year's car a little bit. Again, suspension sim is also going to be in the works in terms of what we want to get upgraded. But for now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to refurbish these 2 just to be on the safe side. And we're going to, deal with things as they come. I did want to have a look, though, at Contreras. I believe she's gotten herself a point in braking, so at least that is going up. But yeah, we'll have to see exactly how well we can develop her this year before we promote her next year. Now, next up is Miami, but I think we are going to have to end this episode here. I think it has gone a little bit over, what I estimated. But again, this one has been a little bit more, showing a little bit more of the races because we have promoted Lawson. Want to kind of show you how he performs, and generally he does perform really well. To be fair though, Baku incident happened, but even then, he would have had second place basically in the bag, unless, of course, he crashed like he did. So, I'd say our drivers are pretty stable at this point, I think is the best way to put it. And that we don't really need to worry about anything related to their performance. So, going forwards, I'm probably going to be cutting out a lot more of the race footage and kind of try and make episodes a little bit more focused on the research aspect here, for starters. But also a bit more compressed, that we don't spend the next 7 or so episodes getting through this season. Probably try and condense it down to maybe 2 or 3, depending on, again, what happens during the races. But thank you for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and I do hope to see you next time. If you have anything to add, feel free to put it in comments, I always read them. I am bad at replying, I'll admit to that, but I do read every comment that comes my way, even the spammy ones. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this has been a couple of accounts that have started spamming things in French, of all things, on my videos. I have removed that spam for the most part, but if you see any spam, feel free to, let me know. It's a bit annoying when it happens, but generally, again, it's bot spam, the kind of the same that we had when I streamed last year. But yeah, that was kind of a anecdote here at the end. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, helps me a ton, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.